The sun hung low over the dusty town of Willow Creek, painting the sky in amber and rose, while the dry wind carried the smell of horses and grain from the livery stables. On that quiet evening, the townsfolk shuffled about, some heading home after a long day's labor, others gathering the last of their supplies, before the store closed its creaking wooden doors. Among them was a woman named Clara, her dress worn but clean, her shawl wrapped tight around her shoulders, and her hands gripping a small wicker basket. She had walked into the general store earlier with hope in her eyes, hoping to buy flour, beans, and maybe a piece of salt pork if the coins in her apron pocket stretched far enough. But when the storekeeper shook his head and turned her away, her face fell. Clara had no husband to bargain for her, no strong back to work the cattle drives or till the stubborn soil outside town. Her children, two hungry little mouths waiting at home, depended on her for everything, and once again she had failed to fill their table. She stepped outside, the wooden planks of the porch creaking beneath her feet, and fought back tears as the sunset stretched shadows across the dirt road. That's when she noticed him. A tall cowboy leaned against a post, his hat pulled low, but his eyes sharp with the kind of strength that came from years on the trail. His horse, a strong bay with a white blaze down its nose, shifted its weight as if sensing its master's thoughts. The cowboy had watched the whole exchange inside the store. How Clara's coins had been counted and dismissed, how her quiet dignity was bruised but not broken. He took a step forward, boots crunching in the dirt, and said in a low but steady voice, "Ma'am, I saw what happened in there. Don't walk home empty-handed. Come with me. I'll fill your table tonight." Clara blinked, startled, her fingers tightening around the handle of her basket. She didn't know this man. His voice carried no familiarity, no promise of safety. Yet something in his tone was unshakably sincere. "I don't take charity," she murmured, her chin lifting even as her heart ached at the thought of her children's empty bellies. The cowboy tipped his hat back, revealing kind eyes that carried both weariness and a strange kind of hope. "This ain't charity, ma'am. It's neighborly. Out on the range, we look after one another. I've got more beef and beans than I can chew through myself, and I reckon it'd be a sin to let good food sit while good. Folks go hungry." Clara hesitated, the pull between pride and need heavy on her shoulders. Around them, the town's hum softened as shop doors closed and wagons rattled away, leaving the street quieter than before. The cowboy waited, his hand resting gently on the reins of his horse. Not pushing, not pressing, only offering. Finally, Clara let out a shaky breath and nodded. "All right," she whispered, "but only enough to see my little ones through." A small smile tugged at the cowboy's lips, the kind that spoke not of pity but respect. Together they walked down the road toward the edge of town, the golden haze of twilight wrapping them in a strange, unspoken promise. Behind them, the storekeeper shut his door tight, never realizing that in refusing one woman, he had unknowingly set in motion a story that would echo longer than the closing of his till. As Clara followed the cowboy, her heart fluttered with uncertainty and hope. She didn't yet know his name, or why fate had placed him in her path that evening, but she would soon discover that sometimes the simplest gestures of kindness carry the power to change the course of an entire life. The trail out of Willow Creek stretched wide beneath the stars, the dust of day giving way to the cool hush of night. Clara walked beside the cowboy in silence for a time, the sound of the horse's hooves steady against the earth, the crickets singing from the tall grass along the fence lines. She wondered if she had been foolish to follow a stranger, but something about him felt steady, trustworthy, as though he carried the weight of countless storms and still chose to stand tall. "You got little ones?" he asked finally, his voice breaking the quiet like a warm fire in the dark. Clara nodded. "2. Anna's 8, James is 5. Good children. They don't complain when there's not enough to go around." She swallowed hard, her words thick with guilt. "But they're growing. They need more than I can give." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Ain't right for children to go hungry," he said, a conviction in his tone that burned deeper than casual sympathy. They crested a small ridge, and Clara's eyes widened. Before them, nestled in the low valley, stood a small ranch. Smoke curled from a chimney, and the glow of lanterns flickered from the windows of a sturdy cabin. Cattle stirred in the corral, their shadows stretching long in the moonlight. "This is your place?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "Built it with my own hands after the war. Never did take to town life much. Out here, it's just me, the land, and the Lord above." Clara stepped closer, the smell of fresh hay and the sound of cows grounding her. The cowboy led her to the cabin, pushed open the door, and inside was a sight that made her heart swell. Sacks of flour, beans piled high, salted beef hanging, jars of preserves lined neatly on the shelves. It was more food than her children had seen in months. She turned to him, overwhelmed, tears brimming her eyes. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why now?" The cowboy looked at her with quiet steadiness. "Because sometimes the good Lord puts folks in our path when they need it most. And, ma'am, you and your little ones needed it. Tonight." Clara's hands trembled as she touched the baskets he began filling: flour, beans, dried fruit, a slab of salted pork. More than enough to feed her children for weeks. Her pride warred with her gratitude. But in that moment, gratitude won. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice breaking. "From the bottom of my heart." The cowboy only tipped his hat, his eyes gentle. "Don't thank me. Just promise you'll keep going, that you'll keep fighting for them kids. They're worth more than gold." Clara nodded, clutching the basket close, already picturing Anna and James's faces when she walked through the door with enough food to banish hunger's shadow. As she stepped outside, the cool night air wrapped around her like a blessing. She looked back once more at the man who had given more than food. He had given hope. Hope that kindness still lived, even in the rough edges of the Wild West. And as she walked home beneath the stars, her basket heavy but her spirit lighter, she knew that this encounter would never fade from her memory. She would tell her children not just of the cowboy who fed them, but of the truth he carried, that even in the harshest of places, light finds its way through. And to you, dear listener, if this story stirred your heart, if you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel, because every story we share here isn't just about the past. It's about reminding us that even today, in our own lives, we can be the cowboy who chooses to lift someone up when the world turns them away. Subscribe, stay with us, and let's keep these stories alive together.